Hi, welcome back. This is Evan Jones. We're looking at Preptest 63, Game 3, the Vehicles game. This is, again, the second prep test in your Volume 5 actual official LSAT compilation. And Game 1 and 2 were pretty easy. 1 was like super easy, so you can expect something a little harder here. And indeed, it is a little harder. So let's take a look at the setup and see what we can do. For basic setup, this is a straightforward ordering game. So we have these 6 vehicles, and they're scheduled for service during this 1 week, 6 days, Monday through Saturday. So one of these will be going in each space, no more, no less. So very straightforward in that regard. The trickiness in this game comes from the rules, which are pretty tough to work with. So let's look at those rules. We've got at least one vehicle service later in the week than H. Rather than trying to write that down here like H and then AL1 space, all that rule is saying is that H can't be here. It can't be on Saturday. So just do that as a classic strikeout rule. Perhaps they're trying to maybe throw you off your game by presenting that rule in a slightly different fashion, but yeah, don't be deceived. Just diagram it the same way you always do. So we've got H strikeout there. And then we've got the Roadster. R is later than the van and then earlier than the hatchback. So for that rule, we've got then BRH. B, R, and H. So that order is a permanent feature of the game. Keep that in mind. And, already that's pretty good because not a whole lot of space to throw these two variables since H can't be here. And that'll come into play later. And then we've got this new rule that's very complicated here. The P and the V are serviced on consecutive days, or P and S, but not both. So how do you write that? We're going to go with the LSAT trainer style here. We could have P or V, and they're consecutive, and this little arrow shows us that they can switch. Or we've got P and S, and same deal, little arrow telling you these two can switch. And you can add not both. I mean, to me, the or can imply that, but maybe just both with a strikeout or write not both. That'll be a reminder that you're always seeing either P next to V or P next to S, but you can't have like PSV or VSP or anything like that. Okay, so moving on to the next rule, we've got the sedan is serviced earlier than the pickup or earlier than the limousine, but not both. And this should be familiar from the last game. This is a rule where you end up with the setup L, S, P, or P, S, L. It's just like that Game 2 setup where what it's saying is that S has to be in between L and P. So, sorry, we've already taken up a lot of space here, so let me see if I can condense that a little. Now, what can we see about this game from here? At this point, I was able to make a really great inference, and it might not come to you at this point. It might come later, but VRH is stuck out here, right? You can't have H on Saturday. So this VRH combo is stuck in here, and that takes out 3 variables, right? So all that's left, and S can't be last ever because of this LSP order. So because I was maintaining an awareness of what I had left, I see that the only thing possible on the end here is L and P. That's the only thing we have remaining. You can put the S here, a strikeout, if it helps remind you maybe. But once you've got this L and P in here, that's a very helpful rule. And then it might be tempting at this point to split this up into 2 game boards like we did in game 2. You could have one world with L at the end, and then have P and S down here. And then you could have the second world where you'd have P at the end, and then you're following the LS order. However, I think it gets messy because you've got a lot of rules to rewrite. So I ended up doing this game just with the order as is, just with this one main diagram here. Just be aware that that would have been a legit strategy to split the game up. So you wouldn't be wrong to do that. Okay, with that, we're ready to look at the questions. Question 11, obviously an acceptability question. Not going to worry about that. The answer is B. It's a little bit cumbersome to take all your rules one at a time and see where they're violated, because it's mentally difficult to look, okay, do I see PV or PS but not both? Oh, do I see PV or PS but not both? That's what you have to do there. And you should be left with one standing, and that's B. Okay, for question 12, we're asked what can't be on Thursday. Which one of these vehicles can't be on Thursday? And what I did, rather than looking at the answer choices here, is I looked for a good candidate. And because of this long chain VRH and this LP inference that we made that this has to be either L or P, I was thinking, like, it's going to be hard to get the beginning of this chain that far at the end. So, maybe R, maybe V can't go there. Yeah, if you try to have V there, it forces H into last. So an experienced test taker is going to have the intuition that this is a likely candidate for somebody who can't go on Thursday. They're not going to be looking at the answer choices to find this. They're going to go in already armed with a candidate. And if say, you didn't see V among the answer choices, then you might do some more work. But this is a very quick solve for an experienced test taker. And let's see, V does show up in the answer, E. V cannot go on Thursday. Question 13, it works by a similar mental process to how we figured out this rule up here. And let's look at it. It says no L and no P here. Well, you're going to have a lot easier time with this question if you kind of keep a keen awareness of how many variables you have remaining. You've only got 6 variables in this game. So L and P are gone. You might also know S can't be there because S always has to be second. So what's left, VR and H, are the only variables left after we've crossed off L and P. And R and H can't go there either. The reason being that V has to go in first. So you're left with V always being on Monday. So once you've made that inference, go to the answer choices and look for V on Monday, and sure enough, there it is in C. And if that looks like magic to you, there might be other ways that are clumsier to get to that answer. You start with the L and P here, and you realize, okay, so what's left that I can place here, because this VRH order is very fixed. If I get it in here, then I have, say, P here and S. That forces L in there. So if you tried a bunch of stuff out, you would quickly realize that, V is your only candidate that can go there. So there are clumsy ways to do this problem, but I showed you the sort of elegant way at first, which was quickly realizing that V is the only variable you have remaining. And that leads us to the correct answer choice, C. On question 14, we're told that L is not serviced on Saturday. So L is not in the back. We know from our main inference that we made over here that now P is stuck there. And if you hadn't yet figured this out, now would have been the time to do it. You would have probably figured it out by doing like a sample order, which would have been time consuming, but you would have gotten L out here and then figure out what can be in Saturday when all this is filled in. So a clumsy way to do it, much better if you could make this inference ahead of time. And now we know P's in here. So where do we go from there? Well, what rules affect P? You've got this LSP. We now know we're doing this LS scenario, but that doesn't tell us too much about the remaining order in here. I would have looked at this. Well, P always needs to be next to V or next to S.
And it's going to be impossible in this scenario to get it next to V. You can't have PV here. There's no place to put R and H. So since this is out for this game, you have to have S here. And once I've made an inference like that, I obviously want to check if it answers the question. So we know S is here. And if you scan through and see if there's anything relating to S, you get to answer choice E. And answer choice E, remember we're looking here for something that has to be false. Could the sedan be serviced on Wednesday? No, because it has to be in here. So that leaves E as our right answer. Okay, problem 15 asks us if the sedan is earlier in the week than the pickup, what could be true? So with the sedan earlier in the week than the pickup, we know we're down here in this rule. So if it helps, your mini diagram, write LSP, and then because of that order, you know that L can't be last, so you have to put P last. And also, the work we did on this last question should help us out. We now know it's impossible to get P next to V, right, because of this VRH rule. So, again, we can put S right here. So, at this point, I didn't see anything further that we could do, so I'm just, with this work that I've done, this partial diagram, I'm heading to the answer choices and seeing which one could be true and just testing them out. So it asks in A, let's look at A, the limousine is serviced on Wednesday. Limousine. And that looks pretty okay to me. I'm not seeing any reason why that can't be true. We're following the LSP order. We just have to get VR and H in here. And since that can be true, circle it. It's the right answer. No need to look at the other ones. So this is a very common strategy on modern LSAT prep tests where you get a partial mini diagram, just the point where you can do the work quickly, the remaining work, and then start trying out the answer choices. And that arrived at the right answer here, A. 16 is kind of a gift question. Look at this, and they say L has to be Saturday. So we look at our two worlds from this thing, and we know that we're in this PSL scenario. So that's technically an inference, right? You just figured something out about the game. So what I always say is once you make an inference, see if it answers the question. What must be true? Do we see anything about the pickup being earlier than the sedan? And yeah, we do. That's B. So this is sort of a gift question here after you've already done some harder work on the other questions. And be aware that gift questions do occur, so you should be ready to just pick up the point when it happens. And somebody who struggled for other inferences that you can make with this PSL order would have probably ran out of ideas and eventually done what I did and just look for this in the answer choices, because there's no other work you can do that makes for like definite ordering up here. Now, question 17 is the sort of annoying question that they throw at you, which they're just trying to get you to take a lot of time. And there's really nothing you can do, except if you want to score this point, you just got to do it. You just got to do the work and do a trial and error style. And a lot of people would probably be well advised if they're already under time pressure to just skip this problem. And you can possibly come back to it at the end of this section if you still have time. So it's just asking us what's a legitimate list for Tuesday, Wednesday, and Friday, listed in that order. So this first one, for Tuesday, we put the pickup, Wednesday, the hatchback, and then Friday, I jump to the limousine. So first I try and see if there's any problems with that. It looks like we have to be in this PSL world, so I'd have to put S in there. And then I'd have to put V here, and now there's no room for R. So quickly just seeing that, no, that order's not going to work. When I try and put my VHR sequence into here, I come up with problems. So now the next one, for B, I'm trying, this time, the pickup,
on Tuesday, the Roadster on Wednesday, and then the hatchback on Friday. So now I've got to try my VRH order, so that puts V here. I've satisfied the PV rule, so things are looking pretty good. All I've got to do is plug in this S and this L. And yeah, they follow the order that we need to have. So everything's good here, and B is the correct answer. Trial and error strategy, not always the ideal, but sometimes it's the only way to solve the problem, and that's the case here. So if you want to pick up this point, just get down to it, and you'll be good. All right, so that finishes game 3. Let's take a look at game 4.